Today we're going to talk about creating trading rules and why we do this and kind of how we do it. We're going to begin by talking about who is your friend in trading and maybe even who's your enemy in trading. They can, unfortunately, they can be the same person sometimes. And it all depends on the time and the perspective that you're looking at it. We're going to talk about passive and active rules and what they mean and kind of how I generated them. Because really rules have to deal with your psychology and the way that you think. Some people think different than others. So depending on how you've generated a rule will dictate if it's easy or hard for you to follow. And a lot of times, let's be honest, where do we get our rules from? We copy them from other people because they tell us that they tell us that's their rule and we're like, wow, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to have that same rule. And then you can't follow it and you wonder why, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about this generating rules, when you should, what are some key factors to take a look at, right? If you're having trouble generating a rule. We'll talk about testing and analyzing, and then we'll give out the assignment this week. So who's your friend? Trading rules are your friend. Unfortunately, during market hours, trading rules always seem to be the enemy because you don't want to follow them, right? And you feel that they're restrictive and you feel that they're preventing you from doing things, right? The problem is you generated these when you were in a sane state of mind, right? The market's closed, it's calm, you're looking at your stats, you're like, hey, I really need to start obeying my stop. I would save so much money if I just did that one thing. So you say, trading rule number one, always obey your stop. Then you go to the market the next day and the stock's going against you. And you're like, okay, I'm going to obey my stop. And then it gets to your stop and you're like, oh, but see that level that's right below there's VWAP there. I should have put my stop below that. So I'm going to move my stop below VWAP. And then you let it go there. And then as it approaches there, you're like, oh, but S3's down there. It's going to bounce off S3. So now let me put my stop below S3. And then it crashes through S3 and then you think it's S4, right? And then at the end of the day, you're like, oh, why didn't I just obey my first stop? That would have made so much more sense. I had a rule that said it, right? It's because your rules need to fit your personality, right? All of us have rules that we're used to following. You have a career or you had a career. And when you were in that career, they give you a standard operating procedure. They give you a handbook. They give you something that says, here's your do list. Here's your don't do list. If you do this, you will succeed. If you violate these, you will be punished, right? So they give you the left and right lateral limits that you are supposed to do or you are allowed to do. Trading is no different. The only difference is you are the CEO, the manager, the risk manager, and the employee that has to follow the rules that the CEO, the manager, and everybody puts in place. So for some reason, you think when you're in your role of employee, meaning executing trades, that I'm the boss, so I can change my rules. Well, sure you can. Might not be beneficial to you. And if you did that at a prop firm, you'd be fired right away, right? So you have to understand where they're coming from, and you have to kind of figure out the best way for you to follow them and feel comfortable following them, being okay to follow them, because rules are your friends. You should not be punishing yourself for obeying your trading rules. If you're punishing yourself for obeying your trading rules, you get upset at yourself. You beat yourself up when you follow the rule, and and the rule didn't help you out that time, right? And you remember that, right? You remember the one time it does because you could have made money. So your mind remembers it and it brings it to the front. But what your mind does also do is it forgets the 15 other times that you followed that rule and the stock continued to go against you and would have lost you 3 times that amount of money. That goes way back in the deep, dark areas of your mind that will never go to because it doesn't want to remember those. But it'll remember the one time where you didn't follow it or you followed it and it cost you money, right? So when you follow your rules, you have to reward yourself, whether the rule helped you or it didn't. You have to reward yourself because you want to train your mind to do the right thing. And if you're always beating yourself up, well, your mind's going to understand, hey, I don't want to overtrade, right? Here's a perfect example. I don't want to overtrade. So if I follow the 5 trade rule, then I'm good. But when you follow the 5 trade rule and you get 3 stop outs in a row, and now you beat yourself up for the next 8 hours, talking about how terrible you are. You could have made all this more money if you had just done this and this and this and made the whole lot of laundry lists, right? And then you come back the next day and you get 3 losses in a row again. What do you think your mind's going to want to do? It's going to want to take the 4th trade. Because why would it stop at 3 when all you're going to do is beat yourself up? When you hit the 3, if you're still mad and frustrated, just leave the office. You got plenty of time to come back and do your journaling and everything that you need to do. Go watch a movie. Go get a cup of coffee. Go on a spontaneous date with your significant other. Do something enjoyable and be like, yeah, today was a bad day, but oh well, I get more of the day to myself, right? Understand that. Don't beat yourself up over that stuff. That is going to help you not struggle with your trading rules, right? There's 2 types of rules that you need to think about. You got to develop rules to protect your capital for one, right? Those are like our stop out rules. But you also need to protect your emotional capital. And I'm really here to tell you this is more valuable than your capital. I can lose 8% of my account in a day, and it's going to hurt and I'm going to be mad, right? You all are. But how do you get that emotion? How do you get that capital back? You go and you just deposit more money, and then all of a sudden you have an 8% increase in your account, right? Because you went and you put in that money. But the emotional capital that you lost on that 8% doesn't get redeposited when you drop another 8% back into the account. Now you have to build that with consistency and winning trades just to get back to the level it is. So this is what you really, really, really need to protect yourself from. You need to protect yourself from blowing up your account or beating yourself up or doing things that emotionally harm you. If you lose 1% of your account, might not be nothing to you. That might be a lot to somebody else. You have to protect yourself based upon your own account and where you stand with your account. Yep, there we go. So when do we create these? We really create these during non-market hours. If you try to create trading rules during the market hours, you got so much stress in there. You got the market moving around. You got emotions going on. You want to create these when you're of sound mind, good decision making, and you're not under pressure. Because I'm here to tell you, every one of us makes poor decisions when we're in the heat of any type of stressful situation, right? If you can, the more distance that you can create from that stressful event or stressful situation will allow you to make a better decision. Now, right? Not all the time can you make sound decisions right then and there on top of when you're in that stressful situation. But if you prepare for that situation, your execution is going to be better, right? If you put a process in place to allow you to make correct decisions or not necessarily correct decisions, but correct avenues or drag you down the right path, it's going to help you out, right? It's going to help you out a lot rather than, hey, I'm just going to go on the fly. I'm going to get into this trade. I'm going to make these rules up on the fly, right? It's just it's not going to have a positive result out of it. Okay, you need to have, hey, this is what I'm going to do if this happens. This is what's going to do if I see this. The more of a plan you have, the more rules you have in place, the better you're going to be able to kind of execute through that process. So let's get into passive and active rules. So, got people coming in. So a passive rule, right? These are rules that prevent you from conducting some sort of action that we or you have determined to be detrimental to your trading. I'm going to give you two examples. One is going to be in here, and we're going to use stop loss. The second example is over trading, utilizing the 5 trade rule, because I've gotten a lot of inquiries about, hey, I'm over trading. How do I handle this? What's kind of going on? So I'm going to give you an example using the 5 trade rule as well. And active base rules, these are types of rules that cause you to do some sort of act, right? Because you've determined that it is going to have a positive effect on your trading. So passive means I have to take no action and I'm just going to follow my rule, right? Here's a great example. I'm not going to drink the day before trading. Passive. Doesn't tell me to do anything, right? I don't got to take the bottles and throw them out, right? It just says, hey, I'm going to treat my business. I'm going to treat trading like a business. I ain't going to go party with anybody the night before. That's kind of passive. Active, on the other hand, right, is you're actively telling somebody to do something. So let's look at a stop example. Here's a passive example. I will not allow the price action to go past my stop level. Do you have to do anything? Are you just telling yourself, hey, it ain't going past?
Well, no, we have to set it. I mean, we have to set the stop loss. We have to calculate a good stop loss that makes sense actively, and we have to set it either as a hard stop or as a mental stop. But then if it's a mental stop, we have to do it.
Yeah, but do you have to do anything to prevent it from going past your stop?
Of course. If you don't, I mean, if you have not set a hard stop, you have to click sell because otherwise it goes past.
And you get out before your stop?
That's also possible.
Yeah.
It's kind of ambiguous. That's why it's passive, because it doesn't require you to do something.
Exactly, right? You're just not going to allow it to go past your stop. How you do that is up to you, right? You can set a hard stop. You can get out if it makes a new 1 minute low. You can smash your keyboard to get it out. You can, it's not telling you to do anything. Now look at it from an active perspective. When the price action hits my stop level, I will press the exit hotkey. Notice the difference in the wording. And again, remember, this is about personalities. This is about understanding you as a person and what fits better with you. Some people are going to look at the passive one and be like, yeah, no problem, I can do that. Some people are going to look at the active and say, I need that because I can't do the passive version of it, right? So This is why during this week, I want you to look at your trading rules from a perspective of, are you able to follow them? Or are you not? And look at the ones that you're not able to follow. Now let's look at the 5 trade rule, right? Here's a passive example. If I'm going to follow the 5 trade rule. Very passive, right? Just simply means if I take 3 losses in a row, I'm done trading. If I take the last trade on my 5th trade as a loser, I'm done. Or if I get the bonus trade, my last one's a loser, I'm done. It's very ambiguous, right? Some people may not have any problem following the 5 trade rule because they understand, okay, this is the rules and I'm in there. But if you're having trouble following the 5 trade rule, don't make it passive where it's like, I'm following the 5 trade rule. Make it active. When I hit 3 losses in a row, I'm leaving the office. And I'm not coming back until X happens, right? Or on the 5th trade that I lose, I'm standing up and I'm walking away. Because what people are having, I think, when you have trouble following the 5 trade rule is you're in the heat of the moment. So you're emotional and you're not paying attention. When you generate that rule that makes you actively do something, I don't care what it is, actively do something, it's going to get you to do something. So when do we generate rules and how do we generate it? Well, it's pretty simple. We steal them from others to begin with, right? You know nothing about trading, so you steal them. I did the same thing. I stole 11 or 12 or how many ever trading rules Andrew had in his book. I followed every one of those to start out with. Those were mine, right? But then from there, you're going to start to identify mistakes that you make, right? And typically, you'll find these in your journal, or if you write it down, or if you record yourself, right? Or if you just recall yourself saying, man, I'm not doing that again. That was dumb. Why did I let that go past my stop? I'm not doing that again. Oh, why did I take a partial there? I'm not doing that again. Right? Well, that's great and dandy. And hey, you might mess up again, right? But I'm here to tell you that if you catch yourself saying that 3 times over the same thing, guess what? You don't got the discipline to not do it again. You're going to do it again. And you're going to continuously do it again until you put a lateral limit there that says, I'm not doing this. I'm actively and consciously going to be aware of this situation and know that I don't want to do this and put a rule in place, right? So go ahead and draft it and don't worry about how it's drafted. Just put it down, right? Put the rule down. I'm not going to do this, or I am going to do this. Just write it. And then you need to start tracking your violations. Okay. And you may be asking, how do you do it? It's very simple. You can do it per trade if you want. That's a lot. Or you could do it per day, right? Where whatever rules you have, it's a simple Excel file, right? You can put the date here, right? And then you just put the number 1, 2, 3, etc. And at the end of the day, whatever your rule, did I violate that? No. So you put an end. Did I violate it? Yes. Did I violate it? Yes. Or you could do it the other way, right? Depending on how your mind thinks, right? You could have the date and you'd be like, did I follow my rule? Yes. Did I not follow my rule? Nope. Did I not follow my rule? Oh, right? So you can do it either way, back and forth. Go ahead, Gonzalo.
Mike, a question regarding the rules and violations. Do you, in your trading, and I'm just curious about this, do you have any way of, because sometimes it's impossible to follow every single rules. Do you allow some leeway? You say like 80% is good, and it's a good trading day, or or you have to follow 100% each time?
It depends on what you mean by rules. I don't have a rule that says I need 3 indicators out of 5 indicators, right?
Okay.
I don't have a rule like that. I have a rule that says if I look at my P&L, I'm done trading.
All right.
Another rule I have, if my indicators, if a stock meets my indicators and confirmations, I'll take an entry, right? Rules are not, these rules that you're creating here aren't specific to a strategy. They're more specific to your overall trading, right? I have one of my rules: don't drink the night before you trade because you suck. Right? That's just me. How do I know that? Oh, wow. Look, I took my biggest, back when I first started trading, I took my biggest losing days. I said, what's coming? Wow. Every journal entry says I was out partying the night before with my buddies. Big red flag, right? Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what not to do to have those problems, right? So those are the type of rules we're generating. Remember, in your draft trading plan, you have specific trading rules to your stock, right? Those aren't the ones that I'm saying for this. Like, those are technical rules versus these are left and right lateral limits to keep you within a right emotional mindset. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the way I understand you, it's just to get to what Gonzalo's saying about violations. I mean, the way I understand you, Mike, is that this is a dynamic living system, and if we review it, let's say after a month or after 2 weeks, and we figure that a rule we have kept stick to the rule, but it seems that the rule was maybe not so right, because whatever, for some reason a certain rule doesn't seem to make sense anymore. We should adjust the rule based on the experience, but as long as we have the rule settled, we should stick to it, because we are proving that we can stick to a rule that, after all, right? Is that?
Yep. Couldn't say it any better. You covered bullet point 5. You had it. You're absolutely right. Adjust the trading rule if necessary after you've tracked it, right? You may find that you're just following it. And maybe now you don't even need to track it anymore. You can just get rid of it. Or you can see that you're violating one certain rule. And I'll show you here in a sec how impactful tracking it can be. And you can be like, okay, there's something going on with this rule. Why am I every day violating this rule? There's something going on that's causing me to violate this. Why is that? And then you would take a closer deep dive at it, analyze it, and adjust it as necessary. Go ahead, Morgan.
So it sounds like these are more like global rules rather than like smaller technical rules. But like, would you say something like don't trade before FOMC, like minutes kind of thing? Would that be in this bucket, or?
Yeah, that would definitely be in this bucket.
Yeah, like, because I know myself now, I do not trade on the morning before any FOMC stuff until whatever. I give myself some time to let the market settle a little bit before that.
Yeah, absolutely. A rule like that definitely goes in here.
Okay,
Remember,
that makes sense.
On your draft trading plan, or on that very first document in the trade book, it says specific rules. So those specific rules are designed specifically for a strategy. This is designed for your overall concept as a trader. This is the week where we start getting away from just looking at our strategy and looking at everything that it takes to put on a trade, right? One of the other things that might be something that you want to look at is ensuring you get X amount of sleep the night before. Because if you don't get X amount of night of sleep before, your ability to execute that strategy that you've refined drastically goes down. Those are the type of rules that we're starting to look at.
So I'm actually still drafting my plan, should I have then two sections, one for these kind of like global overarching kind of rules, and then one more of like the technical side of the actual trade itself? I can do that.
Yeah, because you'll see in the trade book, there's a whole area right here for rules. All right. So, oh yeah, there we go. And then here, like we talked about, if you notice that you're not violating it and it's become a part of who you are, you can get rid of it. So here is what tracking looks like, right? Oh, wait, before we get into that. So here's your test. Here is your test. Your test is, tell me if this is a passive or active rule. And remember, I'm going to go passive requires nothing. Active means you're actively doing something, like making your body do something. So trade your trade book edge only, passive or active.
Passive.
Yeah, passive is all it can be, right? Trade rule 1 through 5 copied from Andrew. And let's see. Stick to your entry rules to minimize loss. Rules are there to protect your capital. I just need to stick to them. I don't have to do anything. Maybe my entry rule causes me not to get into a trade, right? If it meets your trade book, then enter without hesitation by pressing the enter hotkey. See the difference between 7 and 8? 9. I already gave you the answer to this one. Same as 7. It's just instead of entry, it's exit rules, right? Trading rule 10, no trading after looking at P&L. Passive, active. Passive, right? Because I'm not doing anything. Way that would be, Donald, if it was active, would be no trading after looking at P&L, or after looking at P&L, walk away. Right? Like go do some, because no trading just means I'm not entering any trades. I'm being very passive at it, right? I found that when I looked at my P&L, because I have no P&L anywhere on my screen, like nowhere on my screen. I have to actively go and pull up my account and move stuff to be able to see my P&L. When I do that, guess what that shift in my mind goes from? Process focus, putting on good trades, following my plan, to money. My mind has actively started to focus on money over the process of executing trades. And when I would do that, then my trade, I'd have a difficult time following my process. Because like, oh, I just need this much to get this money back. Or, oh, I don't want to lose this money, right? So my mind would shift. So I wanted to it. So passive, active, passive. Okay. Remember that. I will tell you, the more disciplined you are in a rule, the more likely for me passives are. If my rules are passive, it means I can pretty much follow the rule all the time. However, if I'm struggling with a rule over and over, I know I need it active. So let me show you this. Right. What rules am I having trouble following?
Six and seven.
Yeah, pretty easy, right? Look at that, 1 month. Pretty easy to tell right off the bat, right? When you start to track stuff, right? So what are 6 and 7? 6 and 7, sticking to my entry rules, which in turn, if you will, right? If I don't stick to my entry rules, clearly I'm not following my trade book edge, right? Right? So then I would start to look at that and say, okay, I need to adjust how I'm looking at it, change these from passive to active. And what I actually did for a while, right? Stick to your entry rules to minimize loss. Rules are there to always protect capital. By pressing the entry keys. Because my problem is I wasn't hesitating. I was not following the rules, right? I wasn't following it. So when I did the evaluation, I was like, this is my area. It wasn't this, because when it met the criteria, I was like, boom, no problem. I'm in, right? Because I'm not hesitating. But I wasn't following or analyzing the stocks very well. So that's why this is off and this wasn't. It gets kind of complicated, but again, it's me personally, right? But once I made that change, right? Oh, sorry. Here's the other way that you can kind of analyze stuff. Or I want to show you a comparison before I show you the change. Look at what happens when I don't follow my rules. Look at this comparison, right? Notice how I'm not executing very well. Look at how I'm having some very bad days, even here, right? Here I kind of made it.
Can you explain what this means? I don't get it. It has something to do with your results, but I don't really get it.
So when I follow my rules, I trade well. Process. When I don't follow rules, I suck in my process. See the equation? Because this right here
is 50%. When you have a 50% in pink, does it mean 50% of your trades failed, or what does it mean?
See, you're focused on P&L again. Just means 50% I didn't follow my plan. I didn't execute my plan. This could be a winner or a loser. It means I didn't follow my process of my plan.
Okay.
Right? What I want you to understand is when I'm not following my rules, my process is off. And when my process is off, I'm not meeting my goals. I control whether I execute proper trades on the day. If I follow my trading rules and my trading rules is what enables me to execute my plan. If my trading rules are so restrictive or out there or don't assist in execution of my plan, then something's off and you need to marry those up, right? If, for example, let's clear this out. If, for example, let's look at January 6th, right? If I'm following all my trading rules and instead of having all this green, I have this, that's wrong, right? If I'm following my trading rules, I should be able to execute my trading plan. Now, is it always going to be that way? No, sometimes you're going to have stuff that's off here and there, but you shouldn't have, hey, I followed everything perfectly, but I didn't execute any of my trade book. I didn't execute my strategy. I didn't execute blah, blah, blah. Because that is then telling you that you need to add something. There needs to be something added to your rules to get you to start executing trades properly, right? Executing the trades correctly. That is what your trading rules are designed to do, to help you execute properly. Okay. Now, look at this one. Remember I said in the beginning, I'm going to show you a relationship to graduation. Here it is. So here I'm filling out every day, right? and I'm following my rules every day. Here is what occurred from May 16th to June 22nd. I didn't cut anything out. This is how many days I tracked my trading rules. Look at that, right? Now, this is how many days I actually traded. Does that look like my life is going normal like it was up here? Yeah, here I'm executing. I'm following my trade book. I'm a professional here. What am I here? I'm all over the place, right? I'm in chaos. What's going on? Well, here, let me show you what's going on. Look at May 25th. I didn't follow any rules. And look what happened. 9 trades. Maybe Fraser. Could be Vegas, right? Didn't follow it. Very upset. Look at this on June 22nd. I'm back. Oop, I gave you a thing. Maybe. But all of a sudden I'm executing better, right? I'm starting to go back to where I was in January. What happened from here to here? Well, here's my son's graduation up in Berkeley. Guess what I'm doing? Family in town, traveling all over the place, staying up late with my son, drinking beers with the family, doing all the things I shouldn't. I'm like, I can do this. Don't worry. Right. So I was trading during this time. I just wasn't tracking any of this stuff. I wasn't evaluating myself, but I was still trading. Guess what? I was losing money, right? Yeah, it'll be there in a sec, Donald. I'll have it there in a sec, right? And then from after the graduation, when I got back, well, my house was being remodeled. My office, we were putting flooring in, the kitchen, everything was going on. I was like, oh, I'll still be able to trade. And then I was like, no, I can't. And I tried to a couple days. And really right here is where I said, yeah, I'm done. Right? I mean, look at June 7th, right? Didn't get very much sleep. My PEMS, right? My evaluation before, I was way off. Didn't even complete my pre-market routine. I overtraded, just mad, didn't follow anything. Like it was just terrible because I was remodeling. And that's when I said, you know what? Life has a vote. Think about that. Life has a vote. It gets to tell you your life is chaos right now. Don't trade. You're just going to lose money. And that's what I was telling everybody in the chat room that was there at the close. I said, my daughter's graduating. Guess what? My family's here. I'm picking my mother and dad up. Guess what? I'm in graduation mode. I am not trading. I'm not going to even attempt to try to put on trades because guess what? I know it's not going to be successful. Like I just know what's going to happen. So I'm not going to do it. This is what you get when you track and analyze your stuff. You figure out when you should be trading, when you shouldn't be trading, right? And when you should be doing other stuff. So then here's this. So that is your assignment in the meeting. All right. With that, thanks everybody for attending. We will look to see you. I will most likely see you next week because I'm going to be very out there with the family this week. So take care, everybody.